What we're going to talk about today is setting up or creating new databases, creating new tables, and then inserting records into those tables. Now, you're not going to spend a lot of time in a commercial corporate environment creating new tables and inserting values into that. Generally, they're pulled from other resources and connections, at least in my experience. You may spend a lot of time creating tables, though, where you insert random records, so this will be very useful for that. You're probably not going to spend a lot of time creating databases themselves, because those are probably set up for you unless it's a new company. But either way, this is good information to know, and I'm going to show you first how to do it through the GUI, and you're going to see how easy it is, and then I'll show you quickly how you can do it with actual query scripting or T-SQL. So that you know both methods and can utilize them. So to create a new database, you just right-click using the GUI, click New Database. We're going to type in YouTube. Here's our new database, and I'm going to name it just YouTube. How about that? And click OK. And now you'll see right away we have this new database under AdventureWorks called YouTube. Now you want to play with this, especially if you're using the Management Studio. You followed along with my other videos. You want to do this live so that you can see how everything works. But when you go under the tables, you'll see we don't have anything there. So let's go ahead and create a table. So right click, we'll do table, and look, it pops up with this nice GUI that asks us what do we want the columns to be. And remember, columns are just like the headers in an Excel spreadsheet. So the first thing I want here is username, and then the data type we're going to do varchar 50. Oops, let's try that again. Vcar. There we go. And then we're going to use a first name here, and we'll do varchar 40. And we're going to do a last name, and we'll do varchar 50 again. And then we want to set up a unique identifier, so we'll call this unique ID, and we'll make this a tiny int, and we will not allow nulls in that field, and we won't allow them here. We want data in those fields. So one of the things that I wanted to show you was these statements varchar, tiny int, all of that, they can be kind of confusing. So I'll have a link to this page here from Microsoft that talks about the different data types, and you can click on each one like tiny int and get a better understanding of the range of storage that you can have, the size 0 to 255, and what these different data elements are, so that you can choose when you're creating your database the right data types for the type of data that you're storing. And this becomes really important, especially if you're in a live production environment. Not so important now in a training class, but will become very important. So I really suggest you go in and you understand the type of data that you're wanting to store, and you choose the correct data types for that. I cannot stress that enough. So again, you can go to Microsoft, get a link to that, and you could choose. But for now, you've got variable characters here up to 40, variable characters up to 50, and then your tiny integer 0 to 255, I believe it was. So now we've got that. We can click Save. It wants a table name, so we'll call this YouTube users, or maybe YouTube subscribers. Click OK, and now you won't see anything, but if you go up here and click refresh, and then we go under tables, you've got YouTube subscribers here. If I right click and do a select top 1000, we've got our IDs here. Now let's add some records in real quick. You can do edit top 200 rows, and I can go in here and do my ads here, and we're done. So then I can just get out of that. I've added that record, and if I go in here and do a select top 1000 rows again, notice that it's got that data stored. You got the username, the first name, the last name, and unique ID. Now, one of the things that you might want to do is set up a primary key. So we can go up here to unique ID, we can click modify, we can right click, we can set this as our primary key so that we know we're not using, someone could have the same first name and last name. So we want our unique ID to be our primary key for the database so that we don't have multiple records in there with the same information. So that's our unique ID. That's how you set a primary key. So we've done all of that. Now I'm going to show you how to drop or delete this table. We don't want it anymore because I'm going to show you how you actually do it through the code. So let's get rid of our prompts here. And I'm going to go ahead and first I'm going to drop this table, and I'm just going to go here and go delete. And you've got an option here, show dependencies, and it will show you any dependencies or items that are dependent on that data. It's a good thing to click on that and check to make sure you're not deleting something that might mess with something else down the road, especially in a production environment. But here we're going to go ahead and click OK. We've dropped that table. Now I'm going to drop this database and go ahead and drop it, and it's gone. Those are non-recoverable. They're gone. So now I'm going to show you how you could do the same thing in a query. Now remember that you always want to make sure that you look up here to see which section, which database that you're actually running your queries against. And I've already pre-coded this to save time, but I will show you here. If you were going to do this manually instead of using the GUI, you would do create database YouTube and execute, and you see command completed successfully. So if we go up here and refresh under our databases, it will show up here, right here, YouTube. And then I'm going to, here's the important part. Remember I talked about this. I want to go to my database YouTube now, where I want to start making my changes, and I want to create the table YouTube users, and I'm going to execute that. Notice it's only executing the code I have highlighted. So now if I come here and refresh, I've got my table. And then finally I'm going to execute this code, make sure it's under YouTube. It is, and I'm going to insert some records into there, and that's done. So now when I do select top 1000 rows, look at that, we've got the same data there that we've done by the code. But so you use the create database and then the name of the database, create table, the name of the table, and then you do your parentheses. Your username is your first field. You tell it what data type you want, then you put a comma, your second field, what data type you want, comma, etc. You go through down the line. And then here we have our insert into, and this is the new table that we created, the YouTube users. These are the fields we want it to insert that data into, and then these are the values that we want to put into that table. So that's it. That's how you can create a database, create your tables, insert values through a GUI. This is how you can do it through the code. Get in there, play with both methods, and leave some comments below. Like this video if it's helped you. And as always, get in there and try to break something. Talk to you next time.